As the year draws to a close, what is your favorite Hollywood drama of 2025? Have you caught the latest show in town? The Netflix Warner Brothers Paramount saga. Netflix, Paramount, and Warner Brothers Discovery are locked in $100 billion plus knives out corporate cage fight with the White House, Donald Trump, and even his son in law Jared Kushner lurking at the edges of the plot. It all started out being very simple. Netflix shook the industry last week with a $72 billion deal to buy Warner, which houses HBO, CNN, DC Studios, and even Harry Potter, all of it minus the old school cable networks. And Warner's top management said yes to this match. Then Paramount kicked in the door. On Monday this week, it launched a full blown hostile takeover bid, bypassing Warner's leadership and appealing directly to the shareholders. What was the offer? More cash, more scope, and a total buyout valued at $108 billion, including debt. And this is where politics comes in. Paramount is saying that their deal is more likely to survive the Trump era scrutiny. And before we discuss the dramatic events of the last 5 days in this edition of Everybody's Business, let's take a look at the contentious prize, which is the Warner Brothers Discovery Group. Warner Brothers Discovery is what you get when 100 years of Hollywood, cable news, TV, and telecom get folded into one mega company. Its story starts in 1923 with Warner Brothers, the studio behind Looney Tunes, Casablanca, DC, and eventually HBO, which itself originated inside Time Inc. in the 1970s. In 1990, Time Inc. merged with Warner Communications to form Time Warner, which later expanded by acquiring CNN, TNT, and Cartoon Network. By the 2000s, Time Warner was one of the world's most powerful media conglomerates. And then AT&T entered the scene in 2018. It bought Time Warner for about $85 billion and rebranded it as Warner Media. AT&T's plan was to merge telecom distribution with premium content, but the economics of this plan never really worked out. Under pressure from debt and investors, AT&T decided to exit the entertainment sector. And that opened the door for Discovery Inc., which was home to Discovery Channel, TLC, and Food Network. AT&T spun off Warner Media and merged it with Discovery in April 2022, creating Warner Brothers Discovery. Today, Warner Brothers Discovery spans Discovery Channel, HBO Max, CNN, DC, Eurosport, HBO, TNT, Animal Planet, Science Channel, Warner Brothers Motion Picture Group, Warner Brothers Television Group, Cartoon Network. The list is really quite long. It also has one of the deepest IP libraries in the world, which basically means that the company owns a massive collection of valuable franchises and content that it can reuse and monetize. Essentially, it's a dominant US media force across film, cable, news, and streaming, but weighed down by large debt and intense industry competition. And that makes it both a powerhouse and a takeover target. Which brings us to what has happened in the last 5 days. On Friday last week, December 5, Netflix struck a deal to buy Warner Brothers Discovery in a $72 billion deal. It would put two of the world's biggest streaming services under the same ownership and join Warner's television and motion picture division, including DC Studios, with Netflix's vast library and its production arm. Of course, even as this was reported, experts spoke about how this proposed deal would draw intense antitrust scrutiny, particularly for its effects on movie making and streaming subscriptions. The cash and stock deal was valued at $27.75 per Warner share, giving it a total enterprise value of $82.7 billion, including debt. Networks such as CNN and Discovery were not included in this deal. Of course, the immediate question that arose was whether HBO Max and Netflix will continue to exist as separate streaming services or would they be merged. Do keep in mind that Netflix and HBO Max make up a third of the total streaming services market globally. Others in play include Prime Video, Disney Plus, and Hulu. Under the proposed acquisition, Netflix has promised to continue theatrical releases for Warner Studio films. But critics say that with this deal, more theaters will close and jobs could be lost. The deal also sent ripples all the way to Washington. Democratic Senator Elizabeth Warren said that the proposed merger looks like an anti monopoly nightmare. And Republican Senator Roger Marshall, a close Trump ally, said that the deal raises serious red flags for consumers, creators, movie theaters, and local businesses. We'll come to the personal politics in just a bit, but critics also said that from regulatory lens, the deal could hit a roadblock. And why is that? That's because the US government could be skeptical of a streaming giant that controls both the production side and the distribution side of content. But the public conversation would move on to that only if there weren't more twists in this tale. And that's not how a Hollywood blockbuster goes, does it? The twist came soon enough, within 3 days to be precise. On December 8, which was Monday this week, Paramount launched a hostile takeover offer for Warner Bros. Discovery, setting up a high stakes battle with Netflix. The Paramount bid sought to bypass the heads of the company and establish a direct channel with Warner's shareholders. Importantly, it said that it planned to buy all of Warner's businesses, including the cable business that Netflix did not propose to buy. Paramount said that its decision to go hostile came after it made several earlier offers that the Warner management never engaged meaningfully. What does Paramount mean by that? See, rumors of interest in Warner from Netflix, NBC owner Comcast, and Skydance owned Paramount have been doing the rounds in recent months. In fact, Paramount even seemed like the frontrunner at one point to buy all of Warner's businesses. And what would that have done? It would have brought together two of Hollywood's legacy studios. And it would have brought CBS and CNN under the same roof. And so, Paramount broke onto the scene formally on Monday. In its appeal to shareholders, Paramount said that its offer contained more cash than Netflix's bid, $18 billion more. As we have discussed, in Netflix's case, the total enterprise value of the deal was $82.7 billion, including debt that will be assumed in the deal. Now, let's look at the Paramount offer. Their offer is for $30 per Warner share, worth $108 billion, including assumed debt. But of course, the two proposals can't really be compared. Why? Because the two don't propose to buy the same thing. In June this year, Warner Bros. Discovery said that it intended to split its streaming and studio operations from its cable business. This development came at a time more and more users are moving to consuming content entirely through streaming platforms. The company had proposed to create a new streaming and studios company that would include HBO, HBO Max, Warner Brothers Television, Warner Brothers Motion Picture Group, and DC Studios. And this part of the operations is what Netflix is trying to buy. Essentially, Netflix's proposed deal covers only the new Warner after it spun off its cable channels, meaning Netflix wants the studio, streaming, and the IP engine, but not CNN, Discovery, or the broader cable business. Now, what happens to networks such as CNN, Discovery, and TNT Sports and other digital products? These will make up a separate cable counterpart called Discovery Global. In October, Warner had signaled that it was open to a sale of all parts of its business as it cited an unsolicited interest it had received. It is not official if this unsolicited interest was from Paramount. Anyway, as Warner has agreed to the deal with Netflix, and if it goes through, Discovery Global will become a new publicly traded company by the third quarter of 2026. Now, as Paramount pulled its stunning move on Monday, its earlier suggestion came into focus that its deal was more likely to pass the scrutiny of US President Donald Trump and his administration. And that brings us to the next chapter, which is the politics of this Hollywood drama. Over the weekend, Trump said that the Netflix Warner combo could be a problem because of the size of the combined market share. He said that he planned to review the deal personally. For its part, Netflix said that it was confident that the regulators and Trump would back its deal, citing multiple conversations that co CEO Ted Sarandos had with Trump. I think the president's interest in this is the same as ours, which is to create and protect jobs, Sarandos said at an investor conference on Monday. But this is not where the story ends. Paramount is run by David Ellison. Does the second name ring a bell? David Ellison is the son of longtime Trump supporter Larry Ellison, who is the world's second richest person. Yes, the same Larry Ellison who is a co founder and the executive chairman of Oracle. Paramount said in a filing that Larry Ellison, alongside the private equity firm Redbird Capital Partners, had committed to backstop the $40 billion in cash needed for the bid. but it has lined up a number of other investors to offload some of that investment. Those include one noteworthy firm. And here comes another Trump connection. An investment firm that is run by Trump's son in law, Jared Kushner, would also be investing in the Paramount deal if it goes through. Affinity Partners is a private equity firm that was founded by Kushner in 2021. It was unclear from the filing how much Kushner's firm had offered as an investment. Do keep in mind how critical Trump has been of CNN. And if the Paramount deal goes through, some part of the Trump family will actually own a part of the group that owns CNN. Other funds participating in the deal are controlled by the governments of three unnamed Persian Gulf countries, reported as Saudi Arabia, Abu Dhabi, and Qatar by the Associated Press. Trump's family company has struck deals this year for buildings and resorts that bear his name in Saudi Arabia and Qatar. So, what is the government's role if a deal like Paramount's or Netflix's is to go through? The government has the authority to terminate any media deals if it has antitrust concerns, but such matters are usually left to experts at the Department of Justice. But of course, when have the norms or what is usual dictated anything that Trump does? With his remarks, he has already involved himself personally in the matter. On Monday, Trump lashed out at Paramount for allowing 60 minutes to interview his ally turned enemy Marjorie Taylor Greene, writing on social media that they are no better than the old ownership. Clearly, Trump's mood on a given day could end up deciding which way the wind blows for the Warner deal. Warner Brothers is one of the five big studios left in Hollywood. And if the Netflix sale goes through, Disney, Paramount, Sony Pictures, and Universal will be the last four traditional studios standing.